Have you been enjoying our top 10 underrated and even overrated guitar players list? Well, today's top 10 underrated guitar players list focuses solely on the 1980s. We've got that for you today right here on GearGasms. Welcome to GearGasms. I'm your host, Alan Barnes, and today we're going to do another top 10 underrated list. We're focusing just on the 80s. It was a great decade for guitar playing. There was all kinds of diversity. So we're going to comb back through that 10-year period, and we're going to unearth some of the most underappreciated guitar players of the era. Starting off with number 10. If you've watched this series before, you know I often take the first one and I sneak a couple, sometimes up to 3 guitar players into this first slot. Today's no different. We're starting off with the 2 guys from Night Ranger. Brad Gillis and Jeff Watson, both very different guitar players, both very capable. What a great mix in that band. I remember seeing them for the first time, if you can believe it, on American Bandstand, who almost never featured anything but music that just sucked. But one fine Saturday morning, they just happened to have a brand new band called Night Ranger on there. They did 2 songs. I don't remember what the second one was, but the first one was Don't Tell Me You Love Me. And that guitar trade-off between Brad and Jeff was just phenomenal. I liked everything about that band at that point. Night Ranger gets a lot of crap for Sister Christian and some of the sappy stuff they did later on, but those 2 guys were just fantastic. Brad Gillis and Jeff Watson, underrated. Number 9 on our list, Bill Leverly. I know what you're thinking. Who the hell is Bill Leverly? Bill Leverly is the guitar player from Firehouse. Yeah, I said it. Firehouse. I know what you're thinking. Firehouse, all those over-the-top, sappy power ballads. How could you possibly pick that guy? But if you listen to more of their catalog, their rock stuff, and even the sap, Bill Leverly was an extremely fluid, melodic player. His playing is fantastic on all those Firehouse songs. They were completely an underrated and sort of misunderstood band. There was a lot more rock and roll there than that actually made it onto videos on MTV. They're still getting it done. They still sound great. Bill Leverly from Firehouse is number 9 on our list. Number 8 on our list, Glenn Tilbrook from Squeeze. I know what you're thinking. What? But Glenn Tilbrook, in a strange way, was sort of overshadowed by himself in that he was the singer for most of what they did. He was one of the primary songwriters. His playing was always very melodic. He had a real good ear for a catchy tune. His guitar playing was always interesting. But really, unless you've seen Squeeze live, you don't have a full appreciation of just how great of a guitar player he was besides all of that. So he's number 8 on our list. Number 7, Jeff Golub. Golub, not sure how to say it. Where have you heard that name before? Billy Squier. He was a guitar player in Billy Squier's band throughout Billy's hit-making run from the late 70s up through the mid to late 80s. His playing was always very tasteful. Another player that really served the song. Billy Squier was no slouch on the guitar himself. Here's a trivia nugget most of you don't know. The musical Rent, it took its inspiration from Billy Squier's Rock Me Tonight video. The guys that wrote that musical, they saw that video, they had one of those hallelujah eureka moments. They sat down, they wrote a musical that was about AIDS, I think, but was somehow kind of happy and somehow kind of uplifting, much like that video. But Jeff Golub, however you say his name, he's number 7 on our list. Before I forget, it's t-shirt shout out time since we're doing the 80s. Had to throw a little love to Motley Crue here, one of the original glam rock Sunset Strip bands. And by no coincidence, number 6 on our list is Mick Mars. Now I know a lot of you people don't like Mick Mars, especially as a lead guitar player, but that almost kind of helps prove my point. Listen to Live Wire, listen to Wild Side. That right hand was just amazing. My theory is the reason his right hand was so tight, so powerful, so spot on, he didn't get the groupie action that the rest of the guys got. Have you seen him? It wasn't good. If 4 or more groupies came backstage to a Motley Crue show, they had to draw straws, and you know what happened to the girl that got the short one? It wasn't pretty. He was kind of hunched over even way back then, which sort of lent itself to a certain position backstage. At least the girl didn't have to look at him while it was going on. There's that. But Mick, I kid you, we love you. You're a great guitar player with great riffs. You belong on our list. So underrated. Number 5. Oh, we're halfway there, and no, it's not going to be Richie Sambora. We're going in a different direction. Andy Summers of the Police. Guitar players kind of know how great Andy Summers is. They kind of don't. The general public certainly doesn't. He was very much the quiet one of that 3-piece band, and Andy to me was kind of like a watercolorist. He was kind of like the Monet of guitar. What he did was very light, very tasteful. He played a lot of really weird chord inversions. His talent is so elusive and so understated that I had trouble finding a clip to kind of show you guys what I'm talking about. But you'll just have to take my word for it and maybe listen to every Police song that's ever been recorded, and you'll understand why he's number 5 on our list. Number 4, it's another Andy. I can see the wheels turning out there. You're wondering, another Andy Taylor. What? Are you talking about that little dude from Duran Duran? Underrated on this guitar list? You damn right I am. And I'm going to tell you why. The year was 1984. Me and a buddy, we'd read in the paper that Duran Duran's tour was pulling more screaming girls than anything that had ever been seen since the Beatles, so we knew we had to go. Here was our miscalculation. We were 19, 20 years old. We show up to this concert and the girls are all 13 and 14. It was no bueno. But I was super impressed with how great the band was live and how important Andy's sound was. But then they take a break, they form the power station, and you finally got to hear what Andy could do. So he was really misunderstood and probably underutilized in Duran Duran. So that absolutely qualifies him to be on our list. Number 3, Def Leppard Steve Clark. So much of Def Leppard's guitar work was Steve Clark. So many of the riffs, so many of the songs being written, Steve Clark all over it. That was a good balance, kind of like in Night Ranger, where Phil Collen did more of the whammy bar sort of legato stuff, and Steve Clark sort of did the original back to the rootsy pentatonic rock and roll. He often had a Les Paul, and his arms must have been 6 feet long, and his guitar straps probably had to be special made because he played that thing almost down at his knees. He was completely cool, completely image, and he is number 3 on our list. Number 2. I don't know why I like to do that. It's just a thing I do. I don't do it every time I say the number 2, especially if I'm telling somebody that I need to go number 2. I don't say, hey everybody, I've got to go number 2. Be that as it may, our number 2 on the underrated guitar players list from the 80s, the secret sauce of Guns N' Roses, Izzy Stradlin. Now talk about another badass, all the way to the bone marrow rock and roll kind of dude. I brought the Gretsch out here because he always played a Gretsch. It was a really, really strange guitar for an LA rock band to have on stage at the time. Izzy, the secret sauce, the unsung hero of Guns N' Roses. To this day, I think Izzy's underappreciated in that band and underappreciated by the GNR fans. Quiet man, extremely, extremely underrated. The number 1 underrated guitar player of the 80s, at least on this list, at least this week, is going to be not Randy Rhoads, but Carlos Cavazo. Carlos gets no love. He joined Quiet Riot, had great success with that band. Of course, originally that was Randy's band. Randy Rhoads is a hard act to follow, but Carlos is a fantastic guitar player. He's never really been able to step out of the shadows of other guitar players because after Quiet Riot went to dust, he's been in other bands. He's been in Rat. He's been in more has-been 80s bands at this point, maybe even than Doug Aldrich. But Carlos Cavazo is a really fine player. Carlos is a survivor, and he's number 1 on our list.
Carlos Cavazo!
Well, kids, I hope you've enjoyed today's list. I know you like to make lots of comments. I found out the hard way when I did the top 10 overrated guitar players list, just how many comments you like to make. One thing I learned the hard way is apparently it's a thing now with men. Maybe it's a millennial thing, I don't know. But men apparently think it's okay to insult another man by calling him fat. You don't call another man fat. You make fun of the size of his junk. You make fun of his mom, you say his sister's a hoe, whatever. A man doesn't call another man fat. That's a total bitch move. The next person that calls me fat in a comment on my YouTube page, I'm going to grab your hand and I'm going to slap your face with your own limp wrist. As always, I thank you for your time. I'm Alan Barnes, your host. I hope you will continue to come back here week after week, and we look forward to seeing you next time right here on GearGasms.